YouTube over on this camera, but the handpan today. So feel free to throw up some comments, but we're primarily working with YouTube today. You can go to YouTube and check it out at Dave's Island Instruments. Anyway, so check it out. We're just going to be talking about all sorts of little weird things like sound quality, build quality, price, brand maker, playability, why. All right, here we are with YouTube. I was just talking to Instagram for a second there.
Instagram, YouTube, so you can watch us double in stereo. It's
right.
Gonna be awesome.
Yeah. So if you're on Instagram, welcome. If you are on YouTube, welcome. And I'm David Beery. This is Daniel. We are going to be talking about how to choose a handpan today. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, subscribe now. Or click that little red subscribe word.
Somewhere.
It's not really a button.
Is it over there?
I think it's over here.
I like when people do that.
Yeah,
it's
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to get straight to it. So if you guys have any comments, by the way, because there's a lot of people out there that already own a handpan, and there's other people that don't own a handpan. So if you already own one, and you already had these discussions with yourself or with others, like how to choose one, feel free to put some stuff in the comments so other people can read it and learn from your own experience. We're going to be obviously talking from our experience over here, and we're going to have some examples of our own instruments. We also have one here that somebody dropped off. We didn't actually buy it from Amazon, but somebody else did, I think.
Yes.
So we can just kind of show this one in a little bit. Anyway, so enjoy the show.
I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
You know, as somebody that, like, I usually talk to everybody that comes in here and buys a handpan, probably people watching, we've talked before. But this is a good subject because, you know, handpan's going through, I think, some changes right now, and, you know, I think it's important to know why you're, you know, getting a handpan and how to get it and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
you know, it's good to get those questions, and we can answer them today.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of people have questions about sound quality. So we're just going to start with sound quality today. Mm-hmm. So one of the basic questions frequently people have is scales. Like, what scale is it?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So through the years, there's been multitudes of scales developed on the handpan. We've always we more recently gravitated towards the Celtic minor scale, which is this one right here. Yeah, it's a really great scale.
Yeah,
it
nice.
really allows the customer or the person who's performing to have like a variety of options musically, and they don't get boxed into a corner. There's some scales where it kind of gets you boxed into a corner where you feel like, hey, I played this multiple times now, and it always sounds the same. Whereas this one, you can kind of play around with it, and it always kind of feels like you're moving forward and drifting a little bit, but you're not being boxed in.
Right.
So that's one reason we like this. Do you like this scale for any other particular reason?
Well, I think in the beginning Dave used to make, like, he would have available like all these different scales, and so as a business going forward, it was kind of tough because, you know, he'd only have so much, and then
couldn't
couldn't anticipate it.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, like, when people are first starting out, 90% of them are new to instruments, never played one, you know, stuff like that.
Right. Even the topic of scale is
what's
the scale?
Yeah, what's the scale? So, like, and a lot of people, I think, you know, one of the reasons why they like it is because it's so simple. So, you know, as long as it sounds nice, that's what I'm saying. But the D minor scale, I think, was one of the original scales that were out on handpans. So there's a lot of handpans out there. And then plus, for us, we have a lot of teaching since people are new, and it's easier to teach something that we
all on the
already
same
have.
scale.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
Like, so for example, like, we'd have jams. If you've ever been to one of our jams, sometimes someone would bring another handpan. If it doesn't go, I would give them one of ours so we can, like, all play together, which is pretty awesome. So.
Yeah. And, you know, frequently D minor handpans in general, like, this is a Celtic minor, but it's a D minor Celtic minor handpan. There's also D minor chord scales. There's also D minor integral scales, that sort of thing. Just the D minor in general, people gravitate towards it with handpans. They like D minors.
Yeah.
Other scales are great. I'm not poo-pooing on other scales, because when you walk up to a new scale, you're like, hey, this is cool. It's always fun to experiment.
Yeah.
But generally, like, if you're thinking about playing along with other people or just kind of joining in with the fun, the D minors tend to be a good option.
And going to sound quality, we were talking about sound quality, you know, like, a lot of people, what the story is when they come in here, I heard it in the streets, or
yeah.
I heard it on YouTube, and that sound, like it was something that hit them, and it was that sound. And there's some handpans out there that don't give that sound. So if Dave would like to play one,
so sound quality. It's like, this is one I tuned personally, and I'm really happy with it. It's a stainless steel handpan, like we said, just a D minor, Celtic minor. This one's also looks like it's stainless steel. It kind of has that gold finish, and for all intents and purposes, it looks like a handpan, but it doesn't sound the way this one sounds. And this is the way it came to us. I haven't touched it, and this isn't the first one I've seen. I actually made a video on another one that came into us like this. And I tried tuning it, and it was just too much work to try to actually get it to sound like a quote-unquote real handpan.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to have their opinions on what a real handpan is, right?
Yeah, but and when it comes down to it, when people come into it, they're looking for this sound.
Yeah.
Instead of
right.
But some people may like that. I remember Dave used to make TikTok or
talk
tones, and that was kind of like that.
The point was on my end was to just to make it like fundamental pitches only, not to have all the harmonics in it. It's kind of the same thing happens here, but anyway, I could go into specifics, but it didn't quite. My perception doesn't quite work with this design. But this is like for sale on other platforms. So if you're a beginner and you see that option, you might think it's just like all the others, and you might get confused. So.
Yeah, and that's what what happens. A lot of people are like, oh, this isn't what the sound that I was looking for. And even this is one of our rentals. So that's one of our rentals. So like in comparison, I don't know. You may want that sound, or you may want the sound.
Yeah.
So it's like, it all depends. And then when talking about scales too, we also have different scales that you can hear. And this is one of our Gaias, and this is a D curd, correct, Dave?
Yep, D minor curd.
So you have a different kind of sound versus the RS.
Yeah. Close. Yeah.
So, and then everybody's different. Someone might want a little drier sound. This is like deeper.
A little warmer. This is brighter.
This is like brighter. Yeah. It has a lot more resonance. Things like that. So those are the things that I think, for sound quality, that's what you should look for.
Yep.
Oh, what's it?
Yep. All right, Instagrammers, I see you over there. Thanks for checking in. I can't tell if you guys are making comments. Let me check it out real quick. Where did I put my glasses?
Don't step on them, dude.
Yeah.
I'm looking over here. All right, cool.
All right, just a couple people joining in. I wish I could wave to all of you at the same time, but we'll do that later. Anyway, but if anybody has any questions, we're talking about we're talking about choosing a handpan. A lot of people out there have either already chosen one, have already got one. Other people are considering it and looking online for different options. And so if you guys have any comments on how you chose your handpan, feel free to make comments. Otherwise, if you are somebody that's looking for a handpan, also make comments if you have any questions. So we were just talking about scales, but another component of choosing the sound quality is the tuning.
The tuning, yes.
So we were kind of alluding to that with this one. This one's not tuned in a normal way. It's they basically tuned some fundamental pitches, but not all the different harmonics that really make it sound give it that really glistening, beautiful sound.
Yeah.
And so most handpans, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown for anybody out there that's unfamiliar with it. Most handpans are going to have 3 pitches that are tuned to every single note. So this note actually has essentially 3 pitches. So there's a fundamental pitch, which is like the basic sound that you hear. And then it has an octave, which is twice as high as the basic sound that you hear. And then that harmonic there that I just punctuated there, that is called a fifth. So you've got a fundamental, octave, and fifth. And if those are perfectly in tune, you can do all sorts of fun stuff with your handpan like you see on those YouTube videos and the people playing all these cool harmonies and stuff. So that's one real important part, that the tuning needs to be properly tuned. So
actually, a lot of people come in here and it's the first time they've even touched a handpan or whatever, and I just want to give them good information, And I go, there's a lot of brands out there, but one of the things that I would personally look for is the maker a tuner. And for Dave's been a tuner for years, and I think that makes a huge difference, because I've seen some different makers, they make very nice handpan, looks good, but the sound quality, it's different depending on what you're looking for, I guess.
Yeah. Another thing about sound quality, I know that a lot of customers come in, and if the ding doesn't sound good, it's all about the ding.
Yeah.
So that ding, when you play that ding note, this is the top note here, the bigger one on the top is called the ding note.
Yeah.
And if that one is basically the one you really want to sound good.
Yeah. Hit that one.
Yeah. So again, that one doesn't quite have the same resonance
like
or the same pure sound that these others do.
Yeah.
Even our rental doesn't quite have the super duper awesome ding sound. But this is a rental. It's not intended to be like something that we're going to be selling and that the customer is going to be exploring like that.
No, hold it on that one. Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But it's more
So it does the job for people to get used to how to touch and feel the instrument and get started. But that's what those rentals are for.
Yeah.
But in general, if you're selling one and you want to, obviously, or if you're buying one, you want to have that really nice full tone on the ding note. All right, let's see. There's also some other sound quality things like 432. There's a tuning out there. These are all tuned to 440. And there's a tuning out there called 432. Some people are interested in 432 instruments. I don't think we have one on hand here.
We have a rental.
But 432, you can dive into the weeds on that one. But essentially, if most Western instruments are tuned to 440 at this level, at this plane of tuning at 440, 432 is slightly lower, and so they don't quite match anymore. But some people like the way 432 sounds, and some people believe that it resonates with the universe, that sort of thing, in a more spiritual way. So they like that 432 sound. The only issue is if you want to play with somebody else, it's always going to be kind of rubbing, and they're not always going to match quite. So if you get a 432 instrument and play it with something else that was 440, remember 440 is higher and 432 is lower, they're always going to rub just a little bit. And so it's not really an ideal instrument to play with others unless they are all 432 instruments also. Even with a piano or something like that, it would rub with a piano because the pianos are typically tuned to 440 in the Western culture. But if you're playing in a meditation surrounding where nobody else is playing another instrument and you're just all by yourself, it's ideal. Or it's not ideal, but it's perfect. It's just totally fine. So those are some questions we have about 432.
Usually like the sound healers, because they'll have like crystal bowls that are 432.
Right.
You want to play along with it, and they'll have flutes that are in 432.
Exactly.
Like
Right.
And it's just a different feel. Some say it's the frequency of the earth, which I think it is. Yeah. I think it is the frequency of the earth or something like that. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
So those are things that you're looking for in sound quality, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, if you guys have just joined us, I'm Dave. This is Daniel from Dave's Island Instruments here in Southern California. It's a rainy day today.
Yay.
We're talking about choosing a handpan. So if you've chosen a handpan before or purchased one, let us know how you went about it in the comments, and maybe we can throw some ideas out to other people that are exploring purchasing a handpan. Otherwise, if you're looking for a handpan, if you have any comments, let us know. We'd love to hear your questions. All right, so we talked about sound quality. We've got basically 5 topics today. Sound quality, 6. Sound quality, build quality, price, brand, maker, playability, and why. Why are you buying this thing, right? So we just talked about sound quality, so we're going to move on to build quality. And we kind of alluded to this a little bit with some of the topics already. But build quality, one of the first things a lot of people notice is just the way it looks. And you can see that the notes here, the edges of the notes have a little bit of a softer look, where this one here, it has more of a really defined note area, kind of more of a line that you can see where those notes are. And where that is really pretty, it's a very pretty look, and I like it too.
It does look very nice.
Yeah. Sometimes it actually makes tuning that note not so ideal. I've tried it myself and have some trouble with that, so that's why I've chosen to make the instrument the way I've made it. And I use hammers to go around the notes and that sort of thing to shape the steel and basically pull it and stretch it and all that sort of thing to make it come into tune just the way I want it. So that's the way I've figured out how to make it. Other people do have different ways of making them that do actually have a good result with similar looks to this. But you just have to be aware, like some note shapes might look really cool, but they might not sound good. Others might look really weird. You might see hammer marks all over them, but it sounds great. So, but in general, there's kind of like, you can kind of tell after a while if you look at multiple handpans over time, especially if you get your hands on listening to some, you'll be able to figure out like, oh, that one's a pretty good general, the way it looks, the way it's made, it's going to sound pretty good. I can just kind of tell by looking at it.
Right. Build quality, yeah, like, you know, just the basic stuff, like, and it's like Dave was showing, like the difference between that handpan and this one is kind of like, oh yeah, what's the difference? Because they kind of look the same, right? And in actuality, the one over there looks a little bit cleaner. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like people think that's a better handpan, but what I found is like it's the handmade ones that are the best. Yeah. And actually some of them may even look rough. Like this is not. Like if you look at it like really closely, you're like, oh my god, it has like, you know, but it sounds. It makes a sound that you're not expecting. It's like, whoa. Right. Like you're like, whoa. Yeah. So let's see, build quality.
Also, the materials that go into it. So, for instance, the steel that these instruments are made out of. This one's made out of stainless. This one's made out of plain old, regular old steel. Not stainless, not nitrided or anything.
Is it painted and coated?
It is painted. This one's painted.
Okay. So.
This one's made out of stainless too. But obviously you can tell stainless isn't the only thing that makes it sound good. I mean, it could be stainless and have a completely different sound than another stainless. Nitrided metal can sound similar or sound vastly different than other metal.
And then even on this one, it has like kind of like machine marks on it and stuff like that. But then on a nitrided one, what happens is over time it like patinas over time, and it gets like your oils on the hand and it changes color too.
Kind of like a saxophone.
Yeah, like you have like a
old saxophone has that kind of.
And then I've seen a lot of other pans that have like it was just like really rough, like someone made it like straight up, because like some of these are made straight with like just
one hammer
the whole way. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, so the other thing too is the thickness of the steel. Sometimes as a tuner I've learned this over time. Thinner steel tends to have a thinner sound. Thicker steel has like a usually typical warmer sound. However, if it gets too thick, then it can start becoming really difficult to tune. It might have weird harmonics. It might have some issues also because you don't want it to be too thick. So that's just another thing that, you know, on my end, like I'm thinking about materials and like how it's made.
And I remember when Dave, we don't make these anymore, but when Dave made the Luna and like he was experimenting with powder coating, I was like, oh yeah, the sound's gonna go away. But it just made it like just
I didn't think about it. Yeah. This one's powder coated. There are other powder coated models out there on the market. And powder coating, the reason it does actually not infringe on the sound too much is because it's baked in an oven. It's not like applied with a spray can and dries with the air. Powder coating is a powder that's applied to the steel, and then it's put into an oven and it bakes on and it melts onto the steel. So there's two things going on there. It melts onto the steel, which is very durable, but also when it heats it up to about 400 degrees, it does something metallurgically to the steel, which actually gives it a little bit more resonance. So it's a very interesting process.
We have a comment from Ernie. Ernie, how you doing, buddy?
How's it going, Ernie?
Basically, he wanted us to play a D chord and a D
right
next to each other. So
So
this is the
primary difference is these first three notes. See how this one goes do da da, and this one goes do da da.
Here, go ahead and play the scale.
Go to the next one. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then do 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see they're very similar.
They are
because they work together. Like if we're playing together, we can make something happen, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But they're slightly different, and The Kurd is a popular model. I think that originally this one was based off of a model called the integral scale, and the integral scale had everything here except for the G. So it had all the notes except for that G, and so at some point somebody added the G, and it became the Kurd scale.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So there you go.
There you go, Ernie.
Yeah, thank you for that question. All right, another quick thing is glue. Handpans are typically glued together, so between the two metals of steel, two shells, there's glue in between. So some people use different kind of glues. I've learned over the years that like a rubbery kind of glue tends to soak up some of the harmonics, and so it kind of gives the instrument a drier sound, and it just sounds more muted. Mm-hmm. And then there's harder kind of glues, and the harder glues tend to allow those frequencies to be kind of be more present.
Oh, okay.
And so it just has a better shimmer and more sustain.
Oh, it has like that. Ching
Yeah, but the problem is sometimes the harder glues are brittle, and so they can sometimes crack. And this is something really the customer's not going to really know this. I mean, the only way you would find out is if your instrument breaks open at some point. But something like a harder glue is brittle. The softer glues are usually more durable, but they cause the instrument to sound a little bit more muted. Mm-hmm. So there's a little happy medium in there. In every tuner kind of comes up with their own glue that they like best, and their own process for getting the glue to dry as well.
Okay, Al Vasic. I got your D Luna about 3 years ago. Why did you stop making them? The question.
The Lunas. Oh, yeah. I'm just moving on to the 21-inch size primarily. And I know that the powder coating is really gorgeous and everything. But it ends up, sometimes can be problematic. So I was just trying to move to something that's a little bit more consistent. I do also like the Lunas as well. So it's not something that was an easy decision. But 21-inch size I prefer a little bit. And also just the process involved with that was sometimes a little bit iffy. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't always a perfect process, and we'd have some failures and that sort of thing.
So you have a special one there, Alec.
Yeah.
This is a special one right here because this is the last one in the shop.
Right.
This is the last one.
Yep. All right. The other thing too, a lot of people get concerned about hammer marks because on this one, the stuff that I make, there's some hammer marks on it, and I don't mind hammer marks. When I was making steel drums originally, I used to be really concerned about hammer marks too. You'd see some steel drums with like perfect construction, just they was like super smooth. But it's not always a direct link between sound. So it could be perfectly smooth, like this one might be really clean and smooth looking, but the sound is really funky. Mm. And then something else might have more hammer marks on it, and it actually might have a really beautiful sound.
Yeah.
So again, you can't always make that decision. Like if you're just looking at a photograph online of something that you might want to buy or a video, it might look one way or the other, but you still won't really make that decision on if it sounds good or not.
Well, I see a lot of handpans come in here because Dave is one of the few tuners of other handpans, if he can do it. And basically, I've seen pans like someone had bought it, but it was out of tune. But the reason why they bought it because it had this cool design on the top.
Oh yeah.
So it looked cool.
It looked cool. Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that does look cool. But
yeah,
when you played it, it was not cool. So that's why they were bringing it in. So what Dave is talking about, you can't judge a book by its cover.
Right, that's kind of what it is. Can't judge a book by its cover. Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to another topic here, but don't forget, if you just joined us, we're talking about choosing a handpan today. A lot of people out there are interested in buying a handpan. Other people have already purchased one, but everybody has an experience. Everyone out there right now has an experience. You've either looked at handpans online, or you've already bought one, you've got some experience. If you have any questions or comments that you can throw at us, feel free to do that. We enjoy talking with you a little bit and getting the conversation going back and forth. But we talked about sound quality up front. We talked about build quality a second ago. Now we're going to talk about price. Daniel's going to talk about price. What do you think about price, Daniel?
You know what? It's funny because I just started making jewelry, and I was thinking about the same thing because as an artist, you know what I mean? What you're putting out and stuff like that. Handpan-wise, like you have China is mass producing them right now, and there's like companies out there that are actually doing it, and I guess in the market wise, you know, that happens to a lot of things out there. So price range right now, I think it's kind of like even across the board. But then what you're gonna be looking at, because I've seen comparing prices with maybe another place, I've seen handpans that are the same price but not the same sound. And right now for Dave's, I think we're right in the middle, and that's what you got to look at. There's a lot of like makers out there that just make a few handpans, and those are a little bit more expensive because they're artists. You know what I mean? And like now, I think a lot of people understand that the handcrafted part of it, and like every single handpan that Dave makes are handcrafted by Dave, so it's an artist thing. Everybody's like, oh yeah, it's like, why is this so much? Why is it like $2,000, $3,000? And that's the reason why. So
yeah, the other thing too is sometimes the details matter. So when you're making an instrument, and you'll notice this with other instruments as well, like a guitar.
Yeah.
You'll see a guitar for $150, and you see one that's $1,500 or whatever.
Yeah.
And to the casual observer, they look pretty much the same. But to somebody that plays it, they go, "Oh, this one sounds way better, or feels way better."
Yeah.
And usually, what happens is it's like what Daniel was saying. It's like the handmade aspect, or the person that's actually making it took time to make sure that one little aspect sounded better, or that one little aspect looked a little bit better.
And it's funny, like, you know, working with Dave, and he's such a master at his craft. He's amazing. Like, I watch him and I see what he does. He's so particular with what he's doing and the tuning that he does. It just goes into it, and like it's like kind of like being a chef. If you put love into the food, you know, it actually comes out, and you can tell between the handpans. I played a lot of the handpans, and I'm not just being biased. Dave has one of the best sounding handpans.
Thank you, man.
No, seriously, it's not even a joke. It's so funny.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, you know, but the price is interesting, you know, because there's so many things that go into price. I mean, obviously, people have a budget as well.
Yes.
So sometimes it's just your personal budget. You don't have enough to spend on one thing, so you accommodate for something else.
Exactly.
And you try to go for the best thing you can for your budget, right? So you can't. We're not suggesting you break your budget.
Yeah, no. No, and I understand it's not the least expensive. I mean, we're working on different things. Like, for example, we're starting. Dave was so against this, like doing refurbished handpans and stuff like that. But now we're doing it. It's kind of cool. Gives it a lower, like the rental that you just saw. That's a refurbished handpan. We have a package for that, and it's lower cost. So if you want to get it, you just can't. And this might fit your budget. And I've sold a couple of those, and people were happy with that. So we're doing different things for price range, but to get a good quality one, and like we're right in that range. Like it's not. We try to keep it even, you know, regardless of like supply and demand and all that other stuff. But of course, in the end, we got to stay in business so we can help service these handpans also, and that should be in the price too, because a lot of these handpans that Dave is tuning is not from our shop.
Yeah. I do a lot of videos on YouTube where I'm tuning somebody else's instrument.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
fun. For me, it's like a little exploration. It's like a scientific endeavor kind of thing.
Yeah. So you got to keep us in business so Dave can tune your handpan forever.
Right. So price. I mean, obviously, there's all sorts of considerations that go on with price, but those are just a couple things.
Yeah.
Out loud.
And when it comes down to it, like normally, honestly, like when people come in here, we're not really talking price towards the end, but they understand what it is.
Yeah, it ends up being more the why, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does end. Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to talk about the why later.
Yeah.
All right, so once again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about choosing a handpan, and a lot of people out there already bought a handpan. Some people are still looking at handpans, and handpan prices are like all over the place these days. So we just kind of wanted to give you guys a heads up over like some different components that go into making a handpan: sound quality, build quality, price. Next thing we're going to be talking about is brand and maker.
Right.
Like, does the brand or does the maker matter? You kind of just touched on this a second ago with the price.
Yeah.
But you I think
actually one more thing on the price, because like I had like dealing with ukuleles, like you were talking like a top quality ukulele versus, and it ranges like from $10,000 to like $100 for like an ukulele. But there's one company that I really love, and I want to get one of their ukuleles, but they're like $4,000 or $5,000. So it'll be down, even down the line.
Yeah.
But people are good on the price. But brand and maker, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think more than maker. If they're a tuner, then yeah, they're solid. Like all the guys that are tune their own handpans, they all have good handpans.
Yeah, I've before I made handpans, I was making steel drums, and my experience with steel drums is typically like a brand usually encapsulates like a team of people, whereas a maker is like a single person.
Right.
So typically, when you have more of a brand, there's usually multiple people, and I've kind of noticed over that it's not always like this, but I've kind of noticed that there's like a level of acceptability for what they do, and that like they say, okay, check, that one's good, and it's going to be sold. But it's not always really consistent. Like, so steel drums have been like that coming out of Trinidad. I've seen like a variation of acceptableness. Same thing with handpans coming out of different places now, where you see a variation. It's sometimes there's a good one, sometimes there's one you're like, what happened there? And then sometimes there's the middle road. There's a lot of middle road where it's just kind of neither here nor there. It could use a little help. So the brand, if you find a good brand that has really consistent sound, I'd go for it. Other than that, if you can find a specific maker that you'd like, I think that's what most people like to do. They find that maker that they really like, because that maker puts everything into it that their personality exudes, really. The perfectionism, the quality, and so there's different makers all over the place. So another thing to really consider when you're buying a handpan actually is, where does that maker live?
Yeah, that's true.
For instance, like if you buy a handpan in Brazil and then you move to Los Angeles, shipping a handpan to Brazil is going to be like $1,000. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of money. Maybe not $1,000, but it's going to be a lot of money, right? Shipping it back and forth to that handpan maker. But if you bought one in LA, when that handpan tuner is in LA, you can most likely get it serviced locally. And I know that a lot of people don't have that option where the tuners are not local, because there's not a tuner on every block. But that's one consideration. You might want to at least consider within the state or within the country, so that you're not shipping internationally to try to get your instrument.
That's a tough one. We have some customers that they want to ship. Australia is big, but we can't ship there. Mexico, they usually come over here, grab it, and then go back, and then I think we've done a couple to like Costa Rica.
Yeah, international shipping is not always easy. Yeah, it's not always easy.
It's a pain or a bear, and there's a lot of cost involved.
Yeah,
it's like crazy.
Yeah. So that's another thing when you're considering what kind of instrument you want to buy. In the future, it's not always going to stay the same. These instruments, they do go out of tune, and they can be damaged. And so frequently, it's what I see coming through the door is somebody dropped it, or they got it in the mail, and they're like, hey, it doesn't quite sound the way I expected it, and so I'll tune it up for them. Whereas normally, if that tuner was closer, they could have just taken it back to the original maker.
And like brand-wise, there's not really right now the handpan market is not that big. We're talking about it right now, but it's really not. There's a lot of people I'm still meeting that have not even seen the handpan. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So brands, I would right now in this atmosphere, I would go if I was brand new and knowing what I know now, I would find a maker. I wouldn't go with a brand.
Okay. Yeah.
I would find someone that's tuning and like you said, in the local area, if you can find one. Because a lot of people they hear about us, they're like, oh, you're in LA, awesome, and I could just drive down. So. Yeah. Even in LA, a lot of people here don't even know about us.
Right, it's true. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk about playability next. The size, feel, and what kind of notes it has, if they're top notes only or bottom notes included, that sort of thing. I know that from past experience with customers that have come through the door, sometimes one handpan is too big and another one fits their body better. So sometimes people are taller, shorter, larger, skinnier, whatever. Long legs, short legs, all that sort of thing applies. And so they want to get a handpan that works for their body, really.
Right. Or even like another consideration, if you see some of our stuff that we do, we're playing on a mountain. In a volcano. And in the jungle or, in the forest. So to get to these places, you're going to have to hike in.
Yeah.
So size would matter on that. I've done Rome 9 miles with a Oris,
Oris.
on my back, and that was crazy. Like at the end, I was dying.
Yeah,
I almost died. And that's just going around, walking around Rome, shopping, and playing different places and stuff like that. But yeah, that was the hardest one.
Yeah.
Going like when we went to the snow, we're going to the snow, and like we have handpans and camera equipment. It was so funny.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, size, like for example, Dave has a 21-inch Aris, if you get it.
Oh yeah.
And this is a 20-inch, the Lunas, and then you have the Gaias are also 21-inch.
Mm-hmm. So these are the same size here.
Yeah, these are pretty much the same size. And also, if you look at it from the side, the waist can be higher too. Like from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So, and that makes a difference when you're playing on.
Right. Sometimes you feel like you're doing this.
So you see Dave, he's a tall guy. This one's like, he has like a lot more room. I'm here like this going. But it's fine. You can play that way. It's just you just have to work it into it. I've seen some 23-inch ones, and those are like, woohoo!
Yeah,
they're massive. I would put it on the stand, but once you start getting into those ranges, and then Dave used to make a Symphonette, which was really small.
Oh, it was small. Yeah, a lot of people like that one.
Yeah, that one's
I
cool.
Like it too.
That's
the only
cool
thing I didn't like about Symphonette was it was made of really thin steel, and it had like a little bit of a thin sound. And
I've seen it. There's a few customers that keep coming back with one, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one's awesome.
The classic.
The classic.
Yep. Yeah, the feel too, like the nitrided steel feels like slightly different than stainless, and stainless feels different than powder coated.
Yeah,
powder coated feels different than plain steel.
And you can get different sounds too, because you can use that feel.
Yeah.
I would say like
scuffing sounds.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like it sounds like super cool.
Yeah. So sometimes
I can't do that on the Luna.
Yep.
Luna's sticky.
Right. And then bottom notes. Also, the playability aspect is like, are you the kind of person that wants to explore bottom notes? Like, are you really trying to be that that exceptional musician where they're playing all these notes up top and bottom, or do you want to be just somebody that's playing it for meditation purposes? You don't really need to have all these things all over the place. Sometimes more notes creates more confusion for some people. So sometimes a simpler design is better for some people than a more complex design.
Yeah, I was with the bottom notes.
So yeah, actually, for a while I didn't tune bottom notes, and then I started exploring them more, and I actually like the bottom notes.
I like it. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's just once you get it, like you're like, oh yeah, that's a totally different.
Yeah, it gives some cool options.
Actually, I was filming Dave, and if you guys haven't seen it, like, or if you guys haven't did the video training that we offer, Dave shows on the RS12. I think there was like 12 scales or something like that.
Oh
yeah, it was so crazy. I was like, what? And then I told and I think on this one it has the same. It has like all these different scales that you can use, because you can use these as dings instead of this ding, which is the D.
Yeah.
So basically, and I go, Dave, play them all in a row, and I just go, oh my god, and he just played one scale, then another, and then another, and another. I just go, as a musician, you can see all the combinations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just
exactly,
like, wow, there's so many. It's like so crazy.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So those are a couple things about playability that I think are important to know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then we're going to lead up to the end here. So if anybody has any comments, bring them at us. Bring those comments at us. I'd love to
There was a few. Thank you guys for
Yeah.
those questions and stuff. I think we're just really good at explaining. So
exactly, that's right. So we're once again we're talking about choosing a handpan, and a lot of people out there are in the market for getting a handpan. Other people have already bought one, and so we're just kind of talking about that whole exploration for people today. Thank you again for everybody on Instagram that's been watching. I've been watching people kind of watch over here with the little wave. I want to wave to all of you, but I'm not
just do the wave.
close enough. There, yeah.
Anybody
that's on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. It'd be great to have you as a subscriber.
Yay.
And by the way, we're going to talk about the last topic here. It's called the why of choosing a handpan. But before you leave us, before anything happens, make sure you go to our website, davesislandinstruments.com. I'm Dave. This is Daniel. We sell these handpans. I'm the tuner here at Dave's Island Instruments, and we've been doing it for years. So Happy to be here. All right, so why?
Why?
Why do people come in to get handpans, Daniel?
Well, I want to hear your story in the beginning because this is funny. Like when you first started making the handpan.
Yeah.
What did you think about the handpan?
Okay, yeah,
in the
so
beginning?
right.
That would start it, I think.
Okay, great, yeah. So when I was making steel drums before I made handpans, and so some people along the line for several years said, hey, Dave, there's this new instrument, you put it in your lap, it's kind of like an upside down steel drum. It's got like 8 notes. And in my brain, a steel drum has like 27 notes. So I thought 8 notes, that's not, doesn't seem like very much of a challenge, doesn't seem like it's very interesting. Like I was all focused on like more is better, right? So finally, somebody convinced me to make a handpan, and I did, and the instant I put it in my lap and played it, I realized, oh, that's what's special about it. It was a very tactile experience, very personal experience, a little bit different because steel drum is separate from you. It's not touching your body when you play it. You play it with mallets, so you're not using your fingers to play it. So the handpan is a very personal instrument. You can feel it resonating in your skin and your bones, essentially, in your soul, right?
Yeah.
So it was a very fascinating instrument to be exposed to, and that's when I kind of realized, oh, it's a different experience. So I was in my left brain, which is very analytical, and I realized that the handpan is more right brain, which is more like spiritual or emotional. And so that's when I realized, oh, that's why a lot of people I think are attracted to this. It's this very personal experience. So that's part of the why.
And that's like for like the most popular sport in the world is soccer. And why? It's only people kicking a ball around, and that's what it is because everybody can do it.
Yeah, sure.
And for some reason, this is very approachable. It's not like you look at a guitar and you're like, oh my god,
oh yeah,
I got to do this. Here you're just doing your natural thing. You know, you can do a natural thing and get some good sounds out of it, and the sound is like amazing. So why? We actually have this on our website, and it's like, why? What are you going to use it for, basically? And as a teacher and on my journey of sound and stuff like that, I believe sound is meant to be shared. You know, like you can first it's personal, like you were talking about. You have to get in touch with yourself before you can play music, and you have to know that before you can share. And why, you know, a lot of people that come in here, they're either, I ask them, I go, is this for yourself? Are you planning on performing? Because some people are like, oh yeah, I want to do sound bass, or I want to perform with it, because there's like all these new things that are handpan is being integrated into it, and there's so many possibilities, so it's up to you. You know, or just practice. You know, it's kind of like, or just meditate, like
personal.
Yeah, personal meditation. Like I always hear the stories of people buying. One in particular was like, where did you hear it? You know, like first they go, I heard it. One story was, I was just walking somewhere and I heard somebody practicing. So like I just go, what? I go, someone was practicing and it just totally affected somebody just walking by.
Yeah.
That's how powerful this instrument is, and they found out what it was.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they showed up at the door and bought
Oh,
one.
and
it was
by
like
the way,
crazy.
speaking of that same kind of thing, you said during the holidays you brought handpan on all the kids at the
Oh my gosh, yes.
celebration. We're like,
yeah, I brought my hand, like, you know, you go to family events, and I brought my handpan, and all the kids, like I started playing, and all the kids just kind of, it was like Pied Piper.
exactly.
No, literally, like kids were napping and they got up and came over and wanted to touch it, like every single one.
What is that thing?
All my brothers and sisters were like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And they just saw the magic of the sound of the handpan. And you know, honestly, I think everybody has music. That's my personal opinion, and that's why they come in here. Once they hear the handpan, it kind of touches them in that way, and they want to do that. And most people have not played music or played an instrument, and that's the thing that kind of like, as the sales guy, you know, I've done a lot of sales, but it's just weird, like people are paying this much and then just being happy about it. They're
I think what happens too is when people go online and they search for the instruments, they're searching for their why.
Yeah.
they have a feeling they know why they want it, but they're searching for
Yeah.
and then when they actually come to experience one, frequently they're like, oh, that's why I figured out why I want it. And sometimes it's, again, like a personal thing.
Yeah.
Just personal enjoyment. That can be good enough, right?
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
could that not be good enough, right? So personal enjoyment is why a lot of people get them. I think community is like another reason why people buy them. And then there's more reasons where you want to maybe make some money, like you might want to play on the street corner.
Exactly.
Or play in a recording studio for a TV show or for an audio recording of some sort. So there's practical reasons to get a handpan as well. But all of those reasons, they're all personal. So we can't really tell them
what it
this
is.
is the one. Yeah.
Like, for example, like I started with ukulele, and I think it was just music. It was one of my, like a lot of people on their bucket list, they want to play an instrument, and I think that was one of mine. I always thought it was awesome to sing and play like guitar, sing and play and stuff, and I was like, I don't think I could ever do that. But you never know. Like here nowadays, I am teaching music. Dave put a handpan. I was like, God, I don't even, like when I first, honestly, it always amazed me when I saw it and like people would hit it. A lot of you probably know what I'm talking about when I'm hitting and you're like, what are they doing? Because like when you try it, it doesn't sound like that.
Right.
And then I just go, because I would watch it and I'm like, God, and I would hit it and I would not get the sound. It took forever. I was like, I laugh because people do that. They're like, I can't do it. I go, just keep going. You're gonna get it because it's the same thing. Yeah. I would sit there and I would hit it and I was just like, what is wrong with my hands? And it's about getting in touch with yourself first before you can actually play. Now I teach handpan. It's weird. It's like, it's kind of a weird thing. You may not know in the beginning why you want to do it, but you kind of have an idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it's going to be personal. Usually it's for yourself first. Then you get into it, and then all these other things come into effect. But yeah.
There are some other practical reasons like why you would want to get one versus another. Like this one has a lot of sustain. Some people like a lot of sustain, especially in like a meditation purposes. Yeah. But maybe if you're in your recording studio, it might be too much sustain, and it might drown out other things that are going on in the recording.
So
maybe something that's a little bit drier might be better in a recording studio. So there are a couple practical reasons on the why.
Yeah. For sure.
But essentially, it tends to be a personal experience.
It does tend, because like I asked some people, and some people don't know why. They just like the sound, and they're just like, I need to have that in my life. It's like, wow, okay, cool. Yeah. But I get it because I understand how it it helps people and stuff like that. So I think and that's a big reason. And plus you're making an investment, and the why should be important too, because not everybody can afford one of these instruments, and it is once you get one, you're special. Like people start inviting, hey, can you bring that thing? Yeah, exactly. Can you bring the barbecue over?
Right. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much sums it up. I don't see any more comments. Maybe one more comment.
Let me see.
I don't see any comments on Instagram. Instagrammers, thanks for participating and watching. Thanks for tuning in. YouTubers, was there another comment up there?
There was, we asked what they like the handpan. Ernie said personal meditation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There you go. Personal meditation.
Personal meditation.
So, all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm Dave. This is Daniel.
Woohoo. Next week.
Is it a lesson?
Is
like
it
an online class?
Online. Check our events.
Check the events page on the website.
In the next 2 weeks, we're doing a couple things. I'm going to be doing sound healing here if you're local. The meditation part, Ernie, I will do a sound healing here. Also, I think we're having a handpan jam, and I also will do an ukulele class. So just check the events on our website, and it'll have the times and the things that are going on. So cool.
Right on. All right, everybody. That's it.
All right, should we play?
Oh yes, we should play. Absolutely.
Give a little tune. You guys have an awesome time.
Yep. Have a good day, everybody. Bye. See you later. I don't even know how to turn this thing off. Bam.